We're here today on review hearings. In each case, we're conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is making our record. All right, we'll take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Jalissa Bird is my permanency specialist. We're present ready.
Joel Jackson on behalf of
Go ahead, Joel.
Timothy Sherrill, present ready.
Kenna Raha on behalf of the mother, Christy Messmer. I'm also present. She is present. We are ready.
Ryan Turman on behalf of respondent father Tommy Messmer. I thought I saw him on the Zoom before I went into the breakout room, but now I do not see him.
Okay, he was in the waiting room. I admitted him. It just spooled and spooled and spooled, and then he dropped out.
Okay.
And he hasn't logged back in yet. So he's probably having an internet problem.
Okay.
JC Zavala on behalf of the boys.
Okay, what do we have new since the court report was filed?
So both boys are home with Christy Messmer and Timothy Sherrill. So far, the boys are, well, one of the boys are enrolled in school. We've had a little issues with getting the other kiddo enrolled. So they're doing well in school or in home. So far the boys are home. We're just continuing to monitor the boys being home, and they've been there since December 22nd. And so far things are going well.
Okay, anything else?
Not at this time.
All right, Mr. Ronho.
Ms. Hunter, do you know how long the department intends to remain involved and to see if the children are doing well with Ms. Messmer's home?
Yes, and sorry, I'm under the name Christina Hunter, but I'm Jalissa Bird, so I apologize. Some computer issues this morning. But yes, we generally try to do an 8-week period of monitoring the home. And so these are just random visits and check-ins, and just continuing to see if the family needs anything or any support. So generally an 8-week period, depending on how well the visits are going.
I have nothing else to add, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Ma'am, got Ms. Messmer and Mr. Sherrill here in my office with me, and during your testimony, they had informed me that Cameron is currently attending school this morning. He's enrolled in school. Were you aware of that?
No, I wanted to call them this morning to see. We were hoping they would be enrolled this morning, so I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They got that squared away. So,
awesome.
All right. I have no further comments or questions.
Okay, both kids are in school?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Okay, then Mr. Turman.
Judge, I have no questions for Ms. Bird. I understand Mr. Messmer is still just struggling financially and trying to get that figured out. Otherwise, I don't really have much to bring to the table this morning.
All right, so Ms. Bird, it looked like, though, from your report that all parents are in compliance and are cooperating and working together well and with us.
Yes, and Tommy does visit Cameron Messmer and of course Keegan. Christy and Tommy co-parent very well, so he does have his visits that are just with Christy and Timothy at their home. So yeah.
All right, great. Ms. Zavala?
Your Honor, I got to visit with the boys in the home. They seem to be doing well. I'm glad the school issue got worked out. It was not for lack of trying. And I guess he was probably glad to get that Friday off after all. The one thing that I wanted to follow up on, I think had to do with Keegan's medication, maybe some ADHD medication that was difficult to get refilled. That may have been addressed. I think maybe it was had something to do with the different Medicaids involved. Do you know if he's got his meds now?
I visited with Christy on Friday, and so I was able to provide his previous physician. So we're going to call to just have a refill be sent to Amarillo, and then Christy already has an appointment set. I believe it was February 6th. And so he will be seen February 6th, and then we'll get his medications refilled in Amarillo.
Okay. And then parents did have one question. They received a call that seemed kind of weird from Superior Health care, and it may have been very official, but we just wanted to double check on that. I think that Timothy got that at work and was unable to really talk to them, so I don't know if that issue has been resolved.
My voice is going out, but anytime there's a placement change, they will automatically call the new placement to go over the child's medical care. So it would definitely, someone from Superior would be calling.
Okay, I guess what we need to do is make sure that they can talk with Christy instead of, I think they were calling during work hours, and that information just could not be exchanged while he was at work. So how would we go about updating who they need to call on that?
If someone can send me the name and phone number of who they should be calling, I can get that fixed.
Okay, I bet we could put that in the chat.
And when I talked to Timothy Sherrill, when they generally you can give a number and a time and day. I have to do the same thing for most of my kiddos. So you could just give a time and day when they call, basically, to reschedule that at a more appropriate time.
But that's all that I have. The boys appeared to be doing well.
Okay. Does anybody know what Mr. Messmer's telephone number ends in?
Yes, ma'am. It is 806.
Okay, no, that's not it. I had somebody log in on the phone and I wanted to make sure it wasn't him.
Judge, I'm showing Tommy Messmer on the screen.
He's right there.
Did he
I'm
get,
here.
oh, yeah, he did get logged back in. Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't connect me at first.
Yeah, okay. I'm just sorry. I just didn't see you pop in. Good. Okay. All right. So okay, then, well, everything sounds like it's going well. So I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator, and I'll continue the children's placement in the home with Ms. Messmer and Mr. Sherrill, and we'll continue working with Mr. Messmer on seeing the kids, and I'll see everybody back for our final, in this case, on March 7th of 2024 on a 9 o'clock docket. Kind of seems like everybody's pretty much on the same page at this point, as long as things go well between now and then. I mean, I guess there's probably, is there any real need to send you guys to mediate, or?
No, ma'am, I think, Your Honor, from what my clients are telling me, as long as everything goes well, we'll probably try to circulate an order before that date.
Okay.
Try to get the case disposed of before then.
Okay.
Your Honor,
All
I have a couple of matters I wanted to take up with the court, if I could, please.
Sure.
In regard to the healthcare issue that Ms. Zavala was talking about, Mr. Sherrill was given an invitation by Superior for a Zoom meeting on what date? On January 22nd. From 12 to 1. So I guess they'll be discussing that issue then about who they need to contact. And on another note, I've had Ms. Messmer in my office, and we were having a discussion. I know that she's not my client, but I would ask if the court would kindly consider, when the kiddos were removed, they redirected the child support she was receiving to foster care. Now that the kids are back in placement with the parents, could I ask the court to order that child support be directed back to Ms. Messmer?
Mr. Trout, any objection to that?
I don't believe we'll have any objection to that at this time, Your Honor. Hopefully that's where it's going to be headed anyway in the next 4 to 6 weeks, so we can go ahead and get started on that.
So somebody will need to do, I mean, I'll order it, but somebody needs to do something to get it redirected, obviously.
If we can have that in the order, I think that she could provide that to the Attorney General, and that might be the trick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, then I will redirect that child support. I assume that's the support. Would have been it out. Is that the support, Mr. Jackson, that Mr. Messmer was ordered to pay?
Yes,
Yes,
been
ma'am.
paid.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so it'll be in the 97109E case.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, then We'll include that in the order. Today on a review hearing,
Thank you,
we
Your
are
Honor.
conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming. And Ms. Taylor's making our record. All right, we'll go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Marissa Herrera is my permanency specialist. We're present ready.
Your Honor, I'm Tate Eldridge. I represent the mother, Ricky Armijo, and we're both present ready.
Yes, sir.
TD Hammonds for Ruben Pena. We're present and ready, Judge.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of the kids here and ready.
Okay, so let's get an update from St. Francis. What's new since the court report was filed?
The goals of the case have been changed to relative adoption and unrelated adoption due to the parents not really demonstrating appropriate parenting decisions. The home environment is still not safe and clean. Mr. Pena did not have employment for about 2 months, and now he reports that he's working for his pastor, but it's hard to track that because he's getting paid cash and unable to show any proof of employment. He also does not have a driver's license, and their OSAR recommendations were to attend NA weekly. They report that they've attended 2 since the start of December, but again, they're not really giving us anything to see proof of them attending, like sign-in sheets or anything like that. The parents have missed 5 consecutive virtual visits, and we had trouble trying to set up in person for November and December due to them changing numbers and overall just having trouble getting in contact with the parents. They've been invited and encouraged to attend the children's therapies virtually, as well as Sophie's important medical appointments in Dallas at the Cook's Children's Hospital, but they've attended 2 of the appointments in Dallas in November. They came late and left really early, and then they did not attend the 2 this month. They have not attended any of the virtual therapies that we've offered. They continue to have trouble getting on for some reason. The court report also states that the counseling sessions, they only did 5 out of the 6, but Jennings, the receptionist, had told me wrong and called me last week and said they did complete the 6 out of the 6 sessions. However, they did recommend couples counseling for them. Overall, their willingness to cooperate and comply with us has been difficult. The last 2 face-to-faces I've had with them, they've cursed at me, yelled at me, and kicked me out of the home. But the children are doing really well in their placement, but Sophie's medical continues to be a concern just because
Hang on, we lost the judge.
I was looking for her.
Oh, my apologies. Now I completely lost my internet. All right. So the last thing I heard was they had been invited to attend Sophie's medical appointments.
Yes, they attended 2 in November, but they left early. They came late. They did not attend the 2 in January that they were invited to, and they have not attended any of the virtual therapies that we've extended that invitation to. I don't know if I talked about counseling, but they did finish the 6 sessions of counseling. In the court report, it was only the 5, but Jennings had told me incorrectly. But their overall willingness to comply has been a concern because the last 2 face-to-faces I've had with them, they've yelled at me, cursed at me, kicked me out of the home. But the children are doing well. Sophie's medical continues to be a concern. At her appointment in January, her scoliosis has gone from 15% to 25%, so she'll probably have a cast or a brace. But the placement is a kinship home, taking very good care of the children and all of their medical needs. The last time I talked to the parents, they did disclose that they are wanting Samuel to come back and not Sophie to come back home.
Are we allowed to speak?
Yeah.
When it's your turn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. Anything else, Ms. Herrera?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Herrera, let me ask you this. On these occasions where they got angry with you and you say cursed at you and kicked you out of the home, did you have any fear for your safety?
I did. The most recent time I actually brought a coworker with me just because I was telling them about the goal changes, and because of the last interaction, I was worried about it.
And did they act appropriately at that one?
That's the one where they had kicked us out.
So they kicked both of you?
Yes, ma'am.
At any time, I'm going to ask, any time were you in fear for your safety?
Not that time. No, ma'am. Just the time before that. When I went in December, there was another woman in the home that I had never met. And so Miss Armijo and that woman were both kind of attacking me. And so that was the time that I didn't feel safe. And so I left. And so the second time this month, I brought a coworker with me.
Okay, Mr. Eldridge.
So is it Miss Herrera?
Yes, sir.
So I've done quite a few of these cases. From my understanding, Mr. Pena and Miss Armijo both remained clean and sober throughout this entire process. Is that correct?
Yes, they've been sober since April.
Right. And they passed all their drug tests other than the first ones at the very beginning. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Miss Armijo is disabled. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
She's living on Social Security disability.
Yes, sir.
And she can't drive a vehicle, can she?
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Pena can drive a vehicle, but he had a insurance problem in another state, and the state of Texas has not allowed him to get a driver's license in Texas. Is that right? Is that your understanding?
Yes, that's what he's told me.
Okay. And you continually harass him if he shows up to drive Miss Armijo to go to the visits. They get in trouble for trying to get to the visits because he doesn't have a driver's license. Isn't that correct? You get on him about that, right?
No, St. Francis transports them to their visits. We have encouraged them to find legal transportation to the appointments at the doctor's office at Dell Children's. But I did not harass him. I just asked if we could confirm that, if placement at the hospital could confirm they weren't driving, and they refused.
Okay. So they get in trouble if they drive illegally. They get in trouble if they don't go, right?
Correct.
Okay. Kind of a little bit of catch-22, and they can't really win in that situation, can they?
At the last hearing, Star Health had said that they do provide transportation, and I encouraged them to try to reach out and see what that looked like and how to get help from them, as well as getting help from any kind of relative or friend that they could get a ride from.
So this Star Health is going to drive them to Fort Worth to Cooks, and they're going to drive them back?
At the last hearing, they said they provide transportation.
Okay. So they went to the last hearing, and then they went to meetings in Fort Worth, the doctor visits, but then they had the OSAR meeting after that. So they had to go to Fort Worth. They had to come back to Amarillo to do the OSAR. And then you want them to go back to appointments in Fort Worth. They can't afford to do that living on Social Security disability very well, can they?
I don't think they had any appointments in Dallas in December.
Okay.
Just November and January.
A lot of the struggles they're having are financial. They're not, they don't want, I would be upset if you came and told me you're going to take my kid away and my kids away and put them up for adoption. That's a pretty normal reaction for most of your clients. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's pretty, and I know that's not a fun part of your job, but that's part of it. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And they've really worked the services from what I can tell. They've done the OSAR. They've done some of the visits that they can. The children are both placed at great distance, and we haven't been able to get them back in this area throughout this case. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it's a real burden on them financially to be able to even exercise the visits, but they've been trying, and they've done some, haven't they?
No, the visits, we provide transportation. They just have to get to the St. Francis office, but they're not in communication with us for us to set those up. So that's why they haven't been having in-person visits, not because of income or lack of transportation.
Okay. Did you reach out to them to offer them the rides, or do you expect them to reach out to you, or is it miscommunication?
We have a family support worker that sets up their virtual visits, and he also does their in-person visits, and he reaches out to them multiple times. They changed their phone number at the end of October, and they didn't reach out to us till the middle of November. And so we were unable to get that visit done in November, and the same with December. We've reached out multiple times. I called them multiple times. The family support worker called them multiple times, and they just weren't answering. And so we were not able to get those in-person visits done.
Okay. All right. They've done their psychological evaluations. They've done the OSAR. They've done all their counseling. And other than verification, they've been going to NA. You just haven't been able to verify it. So you don't know for sure. Is that right?
That's what they tell me. Yes.
Okay. And I know you've got a conflict with them, so maybe we need a different caseworker. Is there somebody else that could work on this case that doesn't have the conflict with Mr. Pena and Ms. Armijo? Do you have any idea?
I don't have a conflict with them, but I don't know about changing caseworkers. That's not my role or my understanding of how this works.
A lot of this is financial. It looks like to me they're making a pretty good effort to try to do services. Sophie's a little bit of a different story. You make it sound like they're wanting to give up their child, but they come to me, and I've had discussions with the other attorney, one of the other attorneys. The person that's in charge of caring for the children at this time is very good placement for Sophie specifically. Is that right?
She's a good placement. Yes.
Sophie has pretty severe medical conditions, and my clients have agreed that, sorry, Judge, that they can't provide the care that Sophie needs the way that she's getting the care right now. Is that kind of what's happened?
Yes.
But they're not agreeing. They don't want to agree to termination of the parental rights of Samuel. They believe they can take care of him in an appropriate manner. Is that the discussions you've had?
That's the attempted discussions. The past 2 visits that I've had is when they've brought that up, and those are the 2 visits that haven't gone well. So we haven't really dug into that conversation much, but that's what I understand from what you're saying.
All right. All right, Your Honor, that's all I have. I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Hammonds.
Ms. Herrera, is it the basic position of St. Francis that you want to keep children together?
Yes.
I mean, you want to keep the siblings in the same household?
Yes, sir.
So it would be a unique situation if, for instance, it was in Sophie's best interest to stay where she is now, but if we were able to come to some agreement that they could take care of Samuel, that would just be a situation where St. Francis would have to go against your general policy.
That's correct.
Okay, but that happens. Would you agree with me?
I have personally not seen that happen, but I'm not saying that it's never happened.
But you would agree this is a unique situation with Sophie's medical condition?
Yes.
What is the relationship of the placement to Mr. Pena and Miss Armijo right now? How are they related?
They're a distant relative. I believe it's like Ricky's sister's husband's relative, but I would have to like double check my notes for that.
Okay, that's fine. I have nothing further, Judge.
Okay, and Ms. Zavala.
Your Honor, the kids are doing well in placement. Originally, when I spoke with Mr. Eldridge, I was, I do want to make sure that I've got the correct picture of things, because it was sounding like they weren't able to go all the way to Cook Children's and back. But some of the things that concern me just now were missing the virtual visits and the virtual therapies, things that wouldn't require transportation or money. I just want to make sure that this is not a situation of the family just not having financial resources. And so when I hear Ms. Herrera talk, what's concerning me is it does not appear that they're taking advantage of the virtual opportunities and then just the communication issues. But I do want to be mindful that it sounded like potentially there was a conflict between OSAR and some of the medical visits. So I just want to make sure we're documenting that correctly. But as to the kids, they are doing very well. And I do recommend that placement continue.
Okay. All right, so Ms. Armijo, Mr. Pena, and one at a time. Don't talk over each other, but one at a time. I mean, why are you all missing virtual visits and appointments?
Okay, well, the virtual visits, he had been out of town for work, and I left the phone with him. We have one phone to us, both of us, and when he was at work for one of them. Another one was a meeting was at the same time. Marissa had came to the house during the virtual meeting, so we weren't able to make that one. And then another time we had a new meter put in the back, and we had to shut off the power off to the whole house, so we weren't able to even use our internet at that moment. And this last one, we were just on the phone with Chase trying to get into our Microsoft meeting, and it wouldn't allow me. I created a new account. I've been trying. We just had a lot of phone issues.
Had scheduled our court meeting with it too.
And also, yes, we had court today, and then they scheduled the virtual visit on top of the court date, just like they did at the meeting with Marissa the other day.
What visit is it that was scheduled at the time of this docket this morning?
Our virtual visits.
Just virtual visits with the children, not an appointment of some kind.
No, ma'am. Just the virtual visits.
Okay, Ms. Ferrer, I mean, I know that the parent support worker does a lot of that, but are you aware that they've had some of these conflicts?
So yes, they have their virtual visits every Tuesday from 9 to 11. That visit lasts anywhere from 10 to 45 minutes at most. They don't utilize the whole time. And anytime.
I'm not gonna, we're talking about an infant and a 2-year-old. So,
Right. Well, I'm just saying they could have had time this morning during court was the only reason. But in their visits start at 9. Every Tuesday they have had some different changes of visits due to the holidays. The family support worker was offering them on Thursdays. Anytime they have a conflict, they just have to tell the family support worker and he'll move it mostly to Thursdays at 9.
Okay. Well, it sounds to me like a lot of our difficulties are communication and transportation.
Can I clarify what Ms. Herrera spoke about? Superior Health will help transport the child to appointments, but not just parents. If the parents had the child, we would assist. We have a program to assist, but not just the parents.
Okay.
Ma'am, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Some of my employment, I've been employed, with my pastor again, and I have him here right now to prove, that I have been working and stuff. And, them 2 months I was looking for a job and stuff like that. And before, I quit working with him because of the whole family plan that we were trying to get around. And so I had to quit with him, and I got back on now that we finished everything, and I have him here right now to verify that, that I have been working the past few months and stuff. And just to say, I'm employed, and the same person I've employed with the last 2-3 years before all this happened, and
okay. Would he be willing to just to write a letter or do something that documents and that you can give to Ms. Herrera to that effect?
He says yes.
Okay. I mean, it's helpful to know how many hours you're working, how much you're making. That's the information we need.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. He said he would. He's here right now.
Okay. And then just his name and his contact information, and that should take care of that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, have you all gone to mediation yet on this case?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
All right, I think it would be very appropriate to do that. You've got a little time, not a whole lot, but I am going to order y'all to go to mediation. It's pretty much a standing order anymore. So, but I think this is appropriate because we've got some different issues with a medically fragile child. So, I'll order y'all to mediate before, let's say, March 10th. Do you want me to assign an attorney mediator, or do you think y'all can do this through DRC, or what do you think?
I think probably an attorney mediator on this one, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, then today I'm going to continue the department as temporary managing conservator and continue children's current placement. Just, a lot of this stuff, all I can say is, everybody try to communicate. If you have a change of phone number, you got to let these people know. I will find that it would be a danger to send the children home today. But that the department's using reasonable efforts to reunify the family. And we will appoint an attorney and mediator to assist you all. Let's see. And our final is scheduled March 19th of 2024, and that'll be on a 9 o'clock docket. For our initial permanency hearing, we are conducting this through Zoom, and we're live streaming. Ms. Taylor is making our record. All right, we'll take announcements.
Daniel Trial for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Haley Grissom is my permanency specialist. We're present, ready, Your Honor.
Savannah Kincaid, I represent Miss Tenner, the mother in this case. We're present and ready.
Joel Jackson on behalf of the father. Tyrone Lewis, present, ready, Your Honor.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of the kids.
All right, then, what do we have new since the court report was filed?
Since I filed the court report, I did get Mr. Lewis's psychosocial back. And it just had a couple of recommendations, one for parenting classes and one for a psychological evaluation. And I think I mistakenly put on the report that he receives disability, but I don't think that's correct. He is disabled and is unable to work, but I don't think he receives disability. That's the only new information.
Your Honor, I believe our clients also, or my client completed a drug screen in the last week as well. Is that correct?
Yes, they both completed a UA yesterday. Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Peter, she doesn't have any services left to work. Is that correct?
The only two things, she's done the bulk of her services. The only two things that were recommendations from counseling and from her psychological were a parenting class and couples counseling.
Are they currently in couples counseling?
They are not. And they've been discharged. They've both been discharged from their therapist. She did not feel like she could benefit them anymore. So she felt like they would do better finding their own therapist. Maybe just the relationship wasn't amazing between them. And she just felt that someone else would be more beneficial to them. So we would need to find another counselor to do that couples counseling.
Okay, and let me just ask Ms. Kincaid, Mr. Jackson, are they willing to go to couples counseling?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I think my client's willing to do whatever she needs to do to get reunification started as soon as possible.
So, can we get that lined up with someone at Jennings or one of our normal providers?
Yes, I don't think Jennings will work. They kind of started off on a bad foot with Jennings. I tried to get them involved with Jennings at the beginning of the case, but there are other counselors in Amarillo that I can try to find a good fit.
Okay, well, let's get started on it as quick as we can.
Yes, ma'am.
What services does Mr. Lewis need to finish?
I think he's still participating in Padre, and that was a recommendation on his OSAR. And then a parenting class and a psychological evaluation were the two recommendations from his psychosocial. So those are the only two things.
And a parenting awareness class that was completed by Ms. Tenner, would that satisfy the requirements of a parenting class?
I think that they were aware that she was doing the drug and alcohol, like the Padre, for the drug and alcohol risk awareness as a parent. I think that they were wanting her to do like a different parenting related to like child development and child discipline and things like that. So I don't think those things are covered in Padre, but I can double check and see.
Okay. Because it's my understanding that she's completed everything that she's aware that she's been asked or ordered to do. I know that I've filed a certificate of completion of a parenting awareness education, but if there's something different that she hasn't completed, if she could get that information, I know that she'll get that done.
Yes, ma'am. I will find out if the Padre covered the things that Delois was kind of wanting her to cover in parenting. And if it did go over those things that Delois was concerned about, her counselor, then it will count. And if not, I'll get her hooked up with a parenting class that will satisfy it.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, anything to add today?
Just briefly, Ms. Grissom, are you aware that Mr. Lewis is currently enrolled in a parenting class?
He's enrolled in the project program.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Okay. Ms. Zavala?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Just anything then recommendation to make?
I got to see the kids in their foster home. They are doing really, really well. I also received good reports about how visits seem to go and interaction between parents and foster parents being positive. And I always appreciate that when placement and parents can work well together.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Tenner or Mr. Lewis, it just sounds like we've got a few things to wrap up. And Ms. Grissom, if you'll take a look at those parenting classes and just make sure that we're not double dipping, so to speak, but it may be that they are very different, curriculums. So, but we kind of get all these loose ends wrapped up, and then typically what happens is then they sit down and staff kind of for a reunification plan. So, Ms. Grissom, is that kind of where we're headed, you think?
We do have some concerns just because we still have we have an unexplained child death, and we have unexplained injuries to Adrian. So that needs to come to some sort of resolution, but yes, it could be where we're heading. I would need to staff with people before I said definitively.
I understand.
And Your Honor, I would just ask just on those lines, once they do finish up with the few services they have left, and that gets staffed, I'll probably ask for a hearing before, I don't know if Ms. Kincaid or Mr. Jackson will be asking formally on a motion, but if we could have a hearing before a type of reunification or placement changes, so everybody has all the facts that we have.
Okay.
And
well,
I'll ask Ms. Grissom to notify me on that once they do staff on something like that, and we'll ask for a hearing.
It is, of course, the biggest concern is the reason for removal. And we don't have really any more answers about it now than we did then. That's why I think that, number one, making sure that we've done appropriate parenting classes is incredibly important. Our next review hearing is set May 14th of 2024. But if we are ready to cross any thresholds before that, y'all just let me know and we'll get something set up. Ms. Kincaid?
Yes, Your Honor. I did have a couple of questions toward Ms. Grissom. I forgot to get them. I was, down a different rabbit hole. Are you familiar with Ms. Tenner's mother?
Mahala and I have visited a little bit about her. I know very vague details about her, but I've never met her or talked to her.
Okay. I think that we're going to have an issue coming up where the parents are currently doing their visits. The library is not going to be available anymore. Would the department be willing to do a background check on Ms. Tenner's mother and to see if she would be appropriate as a supervisor for their visits?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. And I can get you her name and her contact information so that we can maybe discuss that.
Okay. What can I ask you a question real fast?
Sure.
Would the parents be comfortable? Because I'm assuming she lives in Amarillo, and I know they haven't wanted the babies to travel. Would they be okay with them coming to Amarillo a couple of times a week?
I would have to ask my client. I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
And Your Honor, that would also be, as to what Ms. Kincaid's asking about, that was kind of what we visited about just then. If they are good with the children traveling, because like I said, up to this point, I don't think anybody's really wanted the children to travel, especially parents, which is one reason visitations were happening in Hereford. But if they could, if Ms. Tenner's mother doesn't work out as far as supervising party, it may be that the department would be willing to supervise visits at their office if we can have the children travel. So we can look at both those options.
Okay. All right. Okay, then. Well, like I said, our next hearing is set for May 14th. If we need something sooner than that, just let us know. All right. I will find that there would be a continuing danger to return the children home today. But that the department's using reasonable efforts to reunify the family. I find parents are in compliance with their service plans and encourage them to just keep working through those things and get all those things done. And then I will see you all back, like I said, in May, if not before. I can see that we probably are going to have to get together before that time frame.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your patience. Sorry, we're running behind. We are here today in both cases set for our final trial. We are conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and consent and agreement of the parties. Specifically, Mr. Solis is participating with us by phone from, I believe, TDCJ. And we will go ahead and take everybody's announcements.
Daniel Child for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. We're present, ready, Your Honor.
Your Honor, Ethan Murphy here on behalf of the mother, Anna Pineda. We are not ready, Your Honor. As I explained, I had a conversation with my client yesterday, which I thought we were in agreement about how we were going to proceed. However, she contacted me this morning at about 8 a.m. And said that she does not wish for me to represent her anymore, and she wants to request a new attorney. So I would move to withdraw at this time.
All right, we'll take everybody else's announcements and then I'll take up your motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Jeff Hill on behalf of Elvin Smith. He is not present, Judge. I have not had contact with him in many, many months. I've reached out several times to try and get contact and have not heard back from him. So I'm not really sure I can announce ready. I guess all I can announce is that I'm here.
Okay.
Joel Jackson on behalf of Neil Solis, present, ready, Your Honor.
Stacy Zavala for Emma and Andrew.
Okay, and Ms. King is present with Casa.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Okay, Ms. Pineda, if you have video, which you were on earlier, I need you to turn your video on. Okay. If you'll get your phone or whatever you're on set somewhere, and if you can get seated where you can be still. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, Ms. Pineda, my understanding is that you've instructed Mr. Murphy you wish for him to withdraw and you no longer want him to represent you in this case. The problem, Ms. Pineda, is that we are up against our absolute dismissal date in your case. It has to be tried before the 19th of this month. That does not give any attorney sufficient time to get up to speed on your case. I don't know where we're getting some feedback. So I'm going to deny the request for Mr. Murphy to withdraw. He has been your court-appointed counsel now throughout the duration of this case, I believe. You've had lots of time that you could have made that move if you wanted, but I just can't. I can't let him withdraw and force you to go to trial unrepresented. So, that would be, trust me, that would even be a bigger disaster for you. So I'm not going to permit the withdrawal at this time. Mr. Murphy is your assigned counsel. I will tell you that Mr. Murphy's been in my court many times and he's very competent to represent you. So that motion is denied.
I'm ready.
I'm sorry?
I don't feel that I'm ready.
I don't have any more time to give you, Ms. Pineda. I mean, we've maxed out the time that we have for this case. And everybody's known this date was coming. I've announced this date now. I announced it back in October 31st, to be specific. You were present at that hearing. And it was even announced back as early as July 18th of 2023. You were also present at that hearing. So I think that's more than sufficient notice that this day was coming. So ready or not, we've got to proceed. The law says this case has to be tried within this 18-month time frame. I've granted you an extension in this case to get things finished up. I mean, I've done everything I can do to give you as much time as I can give you. But we are now at the point where there's no more time to give. All right, then, Mr. Trout, who's your first witness today?
Miss Jones, Kathy Jones.
Okay, then, Ms. Jones, if you'll unmute and raise your right hand for me. And Ms. Pineda, you need to stay on camera. This is a trial. You don't get to just disappear.
And Ms. Jones, how are you employed?
I'm a supervisor with the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services.
And are you familiar with the case we're speaking of today?
Yes, I am.
And during a case, does the department keep regular records in the course of its case?
Yes, we do.
Are those records kept in the ordinary course of business?
Yes, they are.
Are the entries in the records made at or around the time the events occur?
Yes, sir, they are.
Are they made by a person with personal knowledge?
Yes, they are.
Do you have access to those records?
Yes, sir, I do.
Are you a custodian of records?
Yes, sir, I am.
Have you had the opportunity to review the records involving this case?
Yes, sir, I have.
Are the removal affidavits and investigative reports made a part of these records?
Yes, sir, they are.
Are they filed with the court?
Yes, sir, they are.
And have you had the opportunity to review those records?
Yes.
Now, the actual investigator on this case is no longer with the department. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you were a supervisor during the time of this case?
Yes.
How did the department become involved with the case involving these children?
We were made aware that their mother, the children's mother, was being detained or being held on a hold at the Amarillo Pavilion, and the children were found by law enforcement alone.
Okay. So they were found in the apartment alone?
Yes.
No adult supervision?
There was no adult there.
And do you know how old were the children at the time?
Andrew was 12 and Emma 5.
And what was the circumstances surrounding, was there any parent around? You said mom was being detained at the behavioral health.
She was in the hospital. Neither child's father was at the home. Mom's boyfriend wasn't there. There was no adult in the apartment at the time. The department sought emergency custody of the children at that time based on there not being a parent with whom to release the children.
Okay. So it was a situation where mom was not going to be released at the time?
Correct.
And did the investigator find out who the fathers were of the two children?
Yes. We were able to determine who the children's fathers were. Andrew's father was incarcerated in Kennedy, Texas, and Elvin Smith was named as the father. The investigator made attempts to locate him, and to my knowledge was unable to do so.
Okay. So at that time we had nobody to take the children into care?
Correct.
And so we asked for emergency removal in order to for the benefit of the children and protect the children?
Yes.
Okay. Did the investigator, was she able to speak to mom at this time during this?
Yes.
And was she able to determine from mom kind of what happened or where mom was, how mom ended up where she was? Yes,
she was able to have a conversation with the mom and understood that she had been out and was at a local establishment consuming alcohol, and then was indicated that she had left a basement and freed herself from being there with men and was knocking on doors in Amarillo, I'm assuming to get help, but she didn't remember that. She didn't remember that she was partially clad. So we understood from law enforcement that she was intoxicated when she was at the pavilion for treatment.
And did mom state that she did not remember what had happened?
She did state she remembered taking some shots. Mm-hmm. She remembered speaking with some men from Tulia that she is also from, but other than that, she didn't remember like how she came to be in that situation.
Okay. And did mom admit to leaving the children alone in the apartment?
Yes.
Okay. Did your investigator, was she able to speak to the children?
Yes, she was able to talk with both of them. When she interviewed Andrew,
go ahead.
When she interviewed Andrew, He indicated that they had been with their mom at the apartment and they were asleep in mom's room. She got them up and said, we're going someplace, and they were afoot. Were picked up by one of mom's friends, went to a party, then went back to the apartment. Mom told them that she was going out. They went back to sleep at that time. And Andrew indicated that he was alerted when his sister Emma told him that law enforcement was at the door.
Okay. Did he state this was the first time that they'd been left alone, or does this happen often?
From what the investigator documented, this seems to be a recurring incident of the kids being left alone often.
The department determined that it was in the best interest of the children to remove at that time?
Yes, there was nobody to release them to. Their mother was detained. Yes, it was in their best interest.
And where did the children end up being placed? Do you remember?
They were placed with relatives.
And it was a relative who had been a placement before for children?
Yes.
Okay. But it was a family member. Do you remember who it is?
Linda Del Toro.
Okay.
And it's listed in the system as a relative. I'm not sure if it's a great aunt or what the relationship is, but it does list it as relative.
Okay. And the children were doing well at the time, at the end of the investigation?
Yes, they were.
And again, I know we've stated before, but that due to mom being in behavioral clinic, being found intoxicated, one dad being in prison and not being able to get in contact with the other, it was determined in best interest to remove the children on an emergency basis.
Yes, it was.
I'll pass the witness at this time, Your
All right, Mr. Murphy.
May I request a breakout room to speak with my client for just a moment?
Yes, sir.
Judge, if I may, I'm going to step out for just a minute.
Sure, sir.
Thank you.
If we could approach the bench again, please.
Okay. We lost Mr. Murphy. I think the plan is, Ms. Pineda, that I think have you talked to Mr. Murphy just in the last few minutes? Okay. I think the plan is he's going to send his assistant to come pick you up and take him to his office to go over the paperwork, and then we're going to take a recess till about 1:30. But I'm kind of hoping I can get him logged back in so we can be 100% sure of that. All right, Mr. Murphy, your client is back in the main session with us. So is the plan that someone from your office is going to pick her up and take her down to your office?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you all have an address?
Yeah, Ms. Pineda, would you just text me that address?
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to just recess until about 1:30. I'll give everybody a lunch break. And it looks like she put it in the chat. Mr. Murphy, did you see that?
Yes, I've got that here.
All right. And then we'll get back on at 1:30. That we may have a little bit delay just to make sure everything's gotten filed and everything. But why don't we regroup about 1:30 this afternoon?
Yes, ma'am. And
yes,
even if you don't have a witness or a notary over there, you can come over to the courthouse.
Okay.
And we can get something. We can get it done.
Sounds great.
Okay. I'm just going to leave the feed up, so I'll see everybody back about 1:30.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's somebody there with you that I can speak with real quick.
Yes, ma'am. Hold on.
Okay. Thank you, Joel. Sorry.
Fuck you. Yeah.
Law Library.
Yes, ma'am. This is Judge Baker. We're going to need Mr. Solis back on at 1:30. We're taking a lunch break.
Okay, give
and
me just a second.
okay.
Judge, after you're done, if you could, I was gonna ask you to put my client in a breakout room and I'll explain to him what's going on.
Yeah, sure.
Ma'am,
Yes.
my supervisor's asking, do you know about how much longer it's going to take?
I don't think we'll need him very long after 1:30. His lawyer needs to speak with him again before we cut him loose, but I would say maybe until about 2:30, just to be safe.
So about another hour from 1:30 to 2:30?
Uh-huh.
Another hour from 1:30 to 2:30. Yeah, they're going to talk to him, but they're going to take a lunch break. So as soon as they come back, they're going to put him back on. Okay, hold on, give me a second. She's asking if he's the only one on the docket or if y'all are like doing other people too.
This is all we've got the rest of the day.
Just him.
No.
Just him. Okay, that should be okay.
Okay. His lawyer wants to talk to him again right now, and then when they're
The lawyer
done.
wants you on the phone. Okay, he's back on the line.
Okay, and then okay, Mr. Schlese, I'm going to put you in a breakout room with your attorney. He wants to visit with you and kind of explain to you what's going on, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, let's see. Put y'all into room 2. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. I know I spoke to Ms. Pineda. She signed the relinquishment. She indicated that she did not want to participate in the remainder of the hearing. I don't see that she's logged back in. I can call her and get her back in if we need her.
I don't see any reason. No, she doesn't. She doesn't have to appear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Solis,
Yes, ma'am.
we're getting
ma'am.
real close, I think. I think we're getting
Okay.
real close.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Your Honor, I just sent the email to everybody. I responded to the exhibit list that I sent out a couple of days ago, so it should be on that same email chain that comes through.
We've come back after a lunch break. And prior to that, Ms. Pineda indicated to her attorney that she wished to execute voluntary relinquishments of both children. So I think that has been done over the break. Mr. Trout had Kathy Jones on the stand. And we broke before any attorneys had any time to cross-examine Ms. Jones. So why don't we let's just back up to that point. Mr. Murphy, did you have any questions that you wanted to ask Ms. Jones?
No, Your Honor. In light of the relinquishment that's been done, I have no questions.
All right, and Mr. Hill?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and Mr. Jackson?
No questions.
All right. Mr. Trout, you have anything further for Ms. Jones?
Maybe did Ms. Zavala get a chance, Your Honor?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Zavala.
That's okay. No questions.
I've told you all that.
Okay. Do you have any further questions then?
Just 2 quick ones. I just want to clarify on something
Sure.
in case you can clarify.
Sure.
Ms. Jones, as to the fathers of the children, I know you stated their names. I just want to clarify that we got them with which children. You stated earlier that Elvin Smith was a father and Neil Solis was a father. Elvin Smith, father to Emma.
Correct.
And Neil Solis is the father to the child Neil.
Correct.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge. I just wanted to clarify on that if I.
Okay. All right. Then anybody have any objection to Ms. Jones going on about her day?
No, ma'am.
No objection.
No objection.
All right, Ms. Jones, thank you very much. You're free to go.
Thank you.
All right, then, Mr. Trout, who's your next witness going to be?
Just in light of the time period, Your Honor, I would call Mr. Solis, Neil Solis.
All right.
Mr. Solis, I got a couple of questions for you. Don't keep you long. You are currently incarcerated, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And where are you incarcerated?
At the county unit in Kennedy, Texas.
Okay. And how long have you been incarcerated?
Since September 2000 to 3.5 years, sir.
Okay. And you're in there on what charges right now?
Possession of a controlled substance with intent to deliver.
Okay. Is there any other charges you're in on right now?
No.
Okay. Do you also have a unauthorized use of a vehicle conviction?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Are you done with that sentence? Or are you still serving it also?
No, I'm only serving the controlled substance.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Prior to these convictions, have you done any other time in state prison?
Yes, I have.
For what?
Huh?
What were those charges?
The second time I came down with the bodily injury and injury to a child with attempted injury to a child, and the first time I came down with domestic assault.
Okay. On the injury to a child case, did that involve the child here that we were speaking of?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And you were convicted of that, and how long was your sentence?
5 years.
Okay. So just to clarify, you were convicted of a injury to a child case and served 5 years?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you know when your projected release date is right now?
Well, I just got to get to that date. It's half the sentence, which would be 2032.
Okay.
But I'm going to go for parole this year.
Okay. Do you know what month you're up for parole?
Hey, I'm sorry, what?
Do you know what month you are up for parole?
I come up next month.
Okay. Would you be out now? Would you not be out until August of 24?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. So you may have your hearing, but your parole eligibility is not until August?
Yes, that's correct. They see you 6 months in advance just to prepare the paperwork. So it would be, set next month, and then, like you said, September. August, I believe it is.
Okay. All right. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Murphy, any questions?
No questions, this witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Hill, any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, and Mr. Jackson.
Briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Solis, it's my understanding that my office had sent you voluntary relinquishment of parental rights. And did you sign off on that before 2 witnesses?
Yes, I did, sir.
And then you had mailed that back to, I believe, your mother on August the 8th, 2024. Is that correct?
Whatever date it was, last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday. All right, that would have been, I'm sorry, that would have been January. That would have been January the 9th, I believe.
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And as far as you have been maintaining contact with that kiddo since approximately August of 2023. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
All right. And the department's aware that you're writing him, are you not?
Yes, I am every week.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, have you got any response from him?
No, I have not.
Okay. All right. And you still want to be able to write him in the future, is that correct?
Yes, yes, I would, yes.
Okay. And you just want him to know that you're not giving up on him, is that right?
Yeah, I just want him to know that, that I do love him and care for him, and I didn't abandon him. I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm getting better now, and I just want him to know that. And also, me and him have gone through similar things growing up. I just think that, I can relate to him a lot better.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, I'll pass the witness.
Okay. Ms. Zavala?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Trout, anything further of this witness?
Nothing further, Mr. Salicia.
All right, let me just ask, does the department have any problems with Mr. Solis continuing to send letters to Neil? As long as, those are looked at and made sure that those are all appropriate.
Your Honor, I don't know that we have any issues with it. I think it is my understanding, and I can have Ms. Michaela testify to this in a little bit. I think there have been some letters sent, I don't know how recently, but letters sent that had some maybe not appropriate for the situation going on. But I'll let Ms. Okay, let's talk about that in a minute. So as long as they are appropriate, I don't think we have any issues. Just we've had a couple instances where maybe they weren't appropriate.
Okay, well, we can get
Okay.
into that at greater length then.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
This morning, we were, Mr. Solis and I and Ms. Zavala were in a breakout room together. And Ms. Zavala went over those letters with us and pointed out to him the things that she felt that he shouldn't be mentioning. It's more or less promises to get back in his life and to fight for him. And he had agreed that he would not make any more comments like that. But Ms. Zavala said there are other letters and that they were appropriate. And he has been made aware of what to do and what not to do.
Okay. All right. Okay, anybody else have any further questions for Mr. Solis?
No, Your Honor. I do want to note that I did address at least one subject. I don't know if that covers any and all of the instances in the letters that were not appropriate. So I don't know that I've covered everything, but just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, all right.
And Your Honor, I'll ask Michaela on that. What Mr. Joel just spoke about is what I was notified of. I haven't seen the letters, but that's kind of what I was notified of also. So that may be it, but we'll ask.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may, real quick, like my Lord has said, it brought to my awareness, but if I do write anything inappropriate, it's not anything of ill intent or anything that I'm trying to cause them any problems or issues. It's just more of like, I just want him to understand that I do, like, it's out of loving concern and care. It's not out of anything else. It's no ill intent, ma'am. Your Honor.
I understand, Mr. Solis. The bottom line is that at some point in time, and that's not going to happen today, but at some point in time, if the relative placement moves forward with adoption of the children, then ultimately it will be her decision about whether you can continue to write or have any contact with the child. As for right now, the children will still be in the custody of the department. And so we can continue to do, what you've been doing as long as those remain appropriate. But, it becomes a different question down the road.
Judge,
Okay.
I do have one more question for Mr. Solis, please.
Sure.
Mr. Solis, regardless of the outcome of these cases today, is it your desire for all these kids to be able to maintain contact between one another?
Yes, that's my biggest concern. I don't think everybody's completely aware of the dynamic of Junior and especially Annalisa. As I think as everybody understands that Junior does have behavior issues and behavior problems, and Annalisa has always, even though she's a little sister, she's very patient and very loving and caring towards her older brother, and she can reach him whenever he's having one of his bad days or bad moments. And I think just with everything that's been going on with the case, me not being around, the situation with his mom, I believe that a lot of the behavior issues that are going on right now with him are because he's being separated from everybody that he knows, everybody that he loves. And, I think that his behavior issues will probably be resolved to be in a better position if he is able to, if not able to be with his sisters, to at least be in contact with his sisters to make sure that he's okay. Because I've always instilled in him when he was with me to always be a big brother and to take care of his sisters and to love them. And he's always taken that responsibility very, very highly.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Anybody else have any further questions for Mr. Solis?
No, ma'am.
No further questions, Your Honor.
No questions.
All right. Okay, Mr. Trout, who's your next witness? And I have received the relinquishments. I'm assuming everybody else has, maybe.
I'd call Michaela Kurtzy, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Kurtzy, could you state your name for the record, please?
Michaela Kirksey.
And Ms. Kurtzy, how are you employed?
I am currently a permanency specialist for St. Francis Ministries.
And how long have you been in that role?
About 2 years.
Okay. And are you familiar with the two cases we're talking about today?
Yes, sir, I am.
And how are you familiar with those cases?
I'm the current permanency specialist for both cases.
Okay. And you haven't been the permanency specialist the whole time?
Not the entire time.
Okay. How long have you been working the case?
I came into this case at the end of May 2023, beginning of June.
Okay. And when you came, so when St. Francis gets a case, what is y'all's first, what do y'all first do?
I guess we first start going through the case record, looking at the investigation report, reaching out, making contact with parents to create a family plan of service.
And what is a family plan of service?
A family plan of service is just a document that we create that we submit to the court with recommendations of different services to make sure that the parents can focus and work on what they need to do to get their child back.
Okay. Were family plans of service created for these cases?
Yes, sir.
And as to Neil Solis Sr., you heard him testify that he has been incarcerated since the beginning.
Yes, sir.
But was a family plan of service created for him?
Yes, sir.
And was that filed with the court?
Yes, sir, it was.
Was it made in order of the court?
Yes, sir, it was.
Has Mr. Solis been able to work any services in this case, or is he limited in what he else can do?
No, sir, he's not
He has not
worked any services. No, sir.
And is that is based upon his incarceration?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were there any services that he would have been able to work or could have worked?
I believe that there are different services offered at the facility, but I haven't gotten any certificates of completion.
Okay. Have you been in contact with him, or have you been able to contact him?
Yes, sir, I have.
Have y'all discussed the service plans?
Yes, sir. I've discussed them with him, but I haven't gotten any response back in regards to the services.
Okay. Were you able to send him a copy of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask to admit exhibit number 7, which is a family plan of service for Mr. Neil Solis that were filed with the court and made in order.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Ms. Curtsey, did you also receive what I sent out as exhibit number 8?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell me what that is?
It is an inmate search for Texas Department of Criminal Justice searching on Neil Andrew Solis.
Okay. And have you been to this website?
Yes, sir.
And does what you find on that website, does it accurately depict what is in exhibit number 8?
Yes, sir.
And did you hear Mr. Solis just then testify that he is in the Conley unit
Yes, sir.
and that he is not eligible for parole until August of 24?
Yes, sir.
And that he has been, he is in on a sentence for possession,
Yes, sir.
and that he does have a past conviction for injury to a child?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would ask to admit exhibit number 8. It's the printout from the inmate website, search website from the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, stating the information that Ms. Curtsey has testified to, and also that Mr. Solis stated that he has been convicted in his release dates and prison dates.
Any objection?
No.
No objection, Your Honor.
No
Your Honor,
objection.
Your Honor, may I take this witness on board, Your Honor?
Sure.
Thank you. Ma'am, you were present, were you not, during the testimony of Mr. Solis?
Yes, sir.
And so with respect to what he testified to, is it consistent with what you're reading in exhibit number 8?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to object to exhibit number 8 on the basis that it's hearsay and that it's repetitive.
All right. Any response, Mr. Trout?
Your Honor, it is admitted as to, it is repetitive as to what he testified to. However, it gives the dates of some additional dates, which are his maximum sentence date and his actual projected release date. I think he may have testified to his projected release date. I can't remember if he said those dates or not, but that is what I was putting it in for, Your Honor, just so it's on the record in writing.
All right. Well, I'll admit it just to for the information that just, directed release date. I think he did testify to that, and his parole eligibility date. So I'll overrule the objection, and it's admitted for those purposes.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a government it's a government website.
It's all the more reason to keep it up, Judge.
All right, we're not going to go there today.
Thank you. Ms. Curtsey, when was the removal? Do you remember the date of removal on this for these children?
Yes, so I have the intake date of the investigation for July 17th, but the TMC date, July 18th.
Okay. And do you hear Mr. Solis state earlier that he was originally incarcerated in 2020?
Yes, sir.
And he is not eligible for parole until August of 24?
Yes, sir.
And is that longer than a 2-year period from the time of removal to the time Mr. Solis will be out of jail?
Yes, sir.
And so during that 2-year period that he is not able to care for the child?
Yes, sir.
You also heard, and I know he stated that he was convicted of a injury to a child that involved this child.
Yes, sir.
Okay. As far as you also heard him testify to his attorney's question that he has signed an affidavit of relinquishment. We just haven't gotten it yet. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Today, is the department asking to terminate the parental rights of Neil Solis Sr. Based upon ground L that he has been convicted of a injury to a child case before? And in fact, that injury to a child case involved this child?
Yes, sir.
And the Q grounds that he knowingly engaged in conduct that confinement or prison could not take care of the child for not less than 2 years from the day that.
Yes, sir.
And even though he's been in prison, O grounds for he has not worked any services at all.
Yes, sir.
Okay. With that, in respect of that, if we do receive the relinquishments and get those filed, is the department willing to terminate on the K grounds for the affidavit of voluntary relinquishment only?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But in the event that we do not receive those and we proceed, we're asking for these grounds.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, as to Emma's case, the father in that case is Elvin Smith. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Were family planning services generated for that case also?
Yes, sir, they were.
And what type of services was Mr. Smith asked to do?
He was asked to comply with the family plan of service, report any changes of his address, residence, phone number to his worker within 5 days. He was asked to drug screen, comply with his probation violations, follow the reunification schedule.
Okay. Has Mr. Smith worked services?
No, sir.
Has he done any services?
No, sir.
Has he reached out to y'all or contacted to you about getting some services set up?
The last time that we had spoke about any services, or the last time that I had any contact with him at all, was July 14th of 2023.
Okay. And how often do you try to contact him?
3 times a month, every month.
Okay, so since July, we're about 6 months, so about 18 times or so you've tried to contact with no luck?
Yes, sir.
Has Mr. Smith ever attended hearings that you're aware of?
That I'm trying to recall off the top of my head. I believe he has attended to some hearings. I don't know if any of them were ones that I had been in on.
Okay. Did you receive what I sent out, exhibit number 9?
Yes.
And can you look at that and tell me what that is?
Exhibit number 9 is the temporary order following the adversary hearing.
Okay. And on there, does it state who the parties were at that hearing?
Yes, sir.
And what does it state as far as Mr. Smith?
That he was in attendance.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask to admit exhibit number 9, which is a certified copy of the temporary order following adversary, which notates that Elvin Smith appeared in person and with his attorney at that hearing.
Any objection?
No, ma'am.
No objection?
No objection.
All right, exhibit 9 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Kersey, could you also tell me what exhibit number 10 is?
Exhibit number 10 is the family plan of service that was e-filed for Elvin Smith.
And this is the plan of service that was generated for him, filed with the court, and made an order of the court?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit exhibit number 10, which is a copy of the family plan of service for Mr. Smith that was filed with the court on 9/8/22 and made an order of the court.
Any objection?
No objection.
No objection.
All right, the petition will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Ms. Kersey, you stated that Mr. Smith has, to your knowledge, has not worked any services at all.
Yes, sir.
Can you do me a favor and look at on exhibit number 9 that we just admitted, the temporary following adversary?
Yes, sir.
Can you look at page 12? And number 2 on page 12 is possession of and access to child.
Yes, sir.
What does it state as far as Mr. Smith's access to the child?
That he shall have an in-person visit with the child on a weekend of his choice to be exercised in Tulia or Plainview.
Does it go over to page 13?
Yes. The first day of the visit shall be supervised by St. Francis Ministries for 4 hours. If no concerns during the initial 4-hour visit, respondent father Elvin Smith may have another 4 hours unsupervised with Emma. On the second day of the visit, visitation shall be for 8 hours unsupervised.
Okay. Does it state any more of a schedule after that?
Elvin will have a second in-person visit with Emma on a weekend of his choice. During the second weekend, all the visitation shall be unsupervised, including overnight. This shall occur in Tulia or Plainview area.
What does the third one state?
If that goes well, St. Francis Ministries shall place Emma's respondent father, Elvin Smith. The department will have a courtesy worker look at respondent father Elvin Smith's home before that and report any concerns.
Okay. And then it also states something about sibling contact if that happens?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your understanding of that, was that a court order that if Mr. Smith worked with us, he's the non-offending parent and his child could be placed back with him?
Yes, sir.
Has that happened?
No, sir.
What was the status of the visits that were to get that started?
I have followed up several times with Dirk Milam about getting these visitations. I know therapeutic visitations at one point was recommended. Elvin's just failed to come up here and commit to any time for the visitations or have contact with Emma.
Okay. When was the last time he saw Emma?
I do not know.
Has he had visitations with the child since you've been on the case?
No, sir.
And you said you've been on it since when?
Since the end of May 2023.
And has the child been in care for longer than 6 months?
Yes, sir.
In fact, we're right at 18 months on this case. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So he has not seen his child, to your knowledge, in at least, what, 9 months?
Yes,
Did
sir.
you also receive what I had sent to you, marked exhibit number 11?
Yes.
And on page 2 of that, what does it state as far as the attendance of parties for Mr. Smith?
That he was present.
Your Honor, I would also ask to admit exhibit number 11, which is a certified copy of the permanency order filed with the court May 11th, indicating that Mr. Smith was in attendance.
Well, you sure heard that right. Okay, petitioner's exhibit 11 will be admitted.
Thank you. Ms. Kersey, are you aware that Mr. Smith was never found to be able to be personally served in this case?
Yes, sir.
But exhibit number 9 and exhibit number 11, as we just admitted, showed that he was in attendance of court hearings and, to your knowledge, never fought jurisdiction of the court on that.
Yes,
Are
sir.
you aware of any other hearings besides those two that he came in, that he was at?
No, sir.
As to Mr. Smith, is the department seeking termination of his parental rights today?
Yes, sir.
And are they asking for termination of parental rights based on failure to work services
Yes, sir.
and constructive abandonment, as he has not seen the child in at least 9 months?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that is in the best interest of the child?
I do.
To clarify a second ago on Mr. Solis is also, do you believe that's in the best interest of the child to terminate his parental rights too?
Yes, sir.
How are the children doing right now?
The children are doing really good. They're placed together in a kinship placement that's actually now a therapeutic foster home, but they're placed with family, getting sibling visits and doing well.
Now, as to mom, I sent out an email a while ago that had relinquishments. Are you familiar with those?
Yes, sir.
Did the respondent mother, Anna Pineda, execute affidavit of voluntary relinquishments today?
Yes, sir, she did.
And you did have the opportunity to review them.
Yes, sir.
Did the respondent mother sign the relinquishments?
Yes, she did.
Were there 2 witnesses to the relinquishments?
Yes, sir.
Have they been notarized?
Yes, sir.
Did the department consent to being the managing conservator of the children?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would ask to bench file these at this time, just in the sake of time.
Let me ask you real quickly. When I looked through it, all right. No problem with pages, and this is as to each relinquishment.
Yeah.
No problems with pages 1 through 4. I then have an extra page that sort of looks like the notary stamp. Either it bled through or it's just on it. It's all hanging on it is backwards on an extra page.
You had them open, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'd like to call that page out of both of these if that's agreeable. And then the same thing, the next page, I know it's because she had to send it to you, but we've got one page in there where we don't have the department's signature on it, but the next one we do.
Yes, ma'am. And Your Honor, the reason I sent it like that, the first page without this department's signature is the blue ink where Ms. Nada signed. And the next one is Ms. Kersey. She said when she printed it, it wasn't printed blue.
That's fine. I'll keep that page in each document, but I don't see any reason to keep that whatever and whatever that notary stamp looks like it bled through to the page.
Yeah, and Your Honor, I don't know how that happened because I took them out and scanned them in without that page in there, and I don't know if my scanner just did that on its own, because I purposely did not scan it in with that page in there.
And Your Honor, I'm looking at the copies that Mr. Trout gave me, and I don't see that page in there at all. I see it on the email that came through, but not in the original paperwork.
Okay.
And I would ask to admit exhibit, well, yes, to make that exhibit number 12 and 13 and have those admitted. Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Kersey, are you asking the court today to terminate the parental rights of the mother, Anna Pineda, as to based upon her affidavit of voluntary relinquishment?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that is in the best interest of the child?
Yes, sir.
And are you also asking the court to terminate the parental rights of Anna Pineda as to the based upon her affidavit of voluntary relinquishment that was filed with the court today?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that that is in the best interest of the child?
Yes, sir, I do.
Or the child, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
And how did you say, just tell me one more time, how the children are doing right now?
They're doing great in placement right now. Neil does have some behavioral issues and some emotional things he's been going through and kind of facing, but they're both safe and happy in placement.
Do we know, I know it's a kinship placement.
With a relative, technically it's a therapeutic foster home.
Is this a foster home that may look to adopt down the road?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that a process that has started, or are we still in?
I believe she's licensed to adopt. She is licensed to adopt already.
Okay. All right. Has she stated that is possibly what she wants to do, or do we know yet?
Yes, sir.
And you do believe that terminating parental rights of the fathers and the mothers to these children is in the best interest?
Yes, sir.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Murphy?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Hill?
No questions, ma'am.
Mr. Jackson?
No questions.
Ms. Zavala?
Ms. Kirksey, when this case first started, I know you weren't the permanency worker, but are you aware of the nature of any relationship that Emma may have had with her father?
She never had a strong bonded relationship with him.
In fact, when at removal, it had been a substantial amount of time since she had seen her father.
Yes, ma'am.
Right now, when you talk to her about contact with her father, what's her reaction?
Emma gets very, very uncomfortable whenever I speak to her about possibilities of visits and placements and contact with her father. She gets whenever I speak to her, you can tell it's tears in her eyes. She gets watered up and she kind of shuts down, doesn't want to talk or respond about it very much.
But because in this 8 or 9 months, you have not even been able to reach him to discuss visits with him, you haven't had to arrange any visits with her and her father.
I have not had to arrange any visits, no, ma'am.
I pass the witness.
Fine. Anybody else have any questions of Ms. Kirksey? Any further witnesses, Mr. Trout, or does the department rest at this time until we resume Thursday? So
Yes, ma'am.
Technically not rest.
Yeah, I wouldn't rest, but I'm done for the day until we reconvene, Your Honor.
Okay. Let me just ask, since we've got Mr. Jackson, we have your client today. Do you wish to tender him as a witness today or ask any other questions? I know he's testified already, but is there anything further you want to ask him?
No, ma'am, I don't believe so at this time.
Okay. All right. Okay, then. Before I think I'll wait till Thursday to take Ms. Zavala and Casa's recommendations. So what we will do is we will just recess the case right now. I'll see everybody back. I think we decided that was set at 10:30 maybe.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I saw.
And I'll see everybody 10:30 Thursday to resume. Mr. Jackson, if you would please, if for some reason you have not received that relinquishment, you could shoot an email out to everybody.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then we'll decide whether we're going to reconvene Thursday or whether, what we're going to do at that point.
Yes, ma'am. Judge, on another note, I spoke with Victoria and we didn't get the docket sheet until later on about the possible Thursday hearing. And so we did not make arrangements with TDCJ about him appearing via Zoom for a potential Thursday hearing. And so, I understand that based on the testimony today, he doesn't necessarily have to be there. But if he wanted to be there, I was going to ask if you would talk to the authorities at TDCJ about making him available.
Let me just see, Mr. Solis, can you get the whoever it is, the law librarian or whoever's there?
Okay, right now, ma'am?
Yeah, for me.
Okay.
Law library.
Yes, ma'am. This is Judge Baker again. Is it possible that we could get Mr. Solis back on Thursday morning about 10:30 for just probably no more than 30 minutes?
Let me just talk to my supervisor. Give me a second.
Okay. And Joel, let me, if we get the relinquishment, it's not that big a deal if he isn't there. If we don't get it, and then we'll reset a date where I know you can.
Okay, thank you for waiting. Can I help you?
Yes, this is Judge Baker. I'm wondering if it's possible that we could have Mr. Solis available again on Thursday morning, the 18th at 10:30 for just about 30 minutes at most.
Yes, we'll need a court order signed by the judge.
Okay. Can that be emailed to you all?
No, yes.
All right. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you Thursday.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't guess this really needs to be on the record. So I know that Mr. Jackson has not gotten that relinquishment. I'm willing to give that a little more time since we're in recess. What I'd really like to do is go ahead, unless anybody has some big objection, is go ahead and recall the 96904 case. I think we have everything we need on that, and I can go ahead and render judgment in that case.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Hill will be done. He wouldn't have to come back down the road. Unless he just wants to, and I know how much Mr. Hill loves being with us and spending time with us. So, I'll give him that option, but he may have better things to do. So that was kind of my thinking. We can wrap up on the one case. And then we can just get a little bit on the record on the Solis case, and then we'll get a reset date. And we are resuming the final in this case from just this past Tuesday, January 16th. Mr. Murphy is present on behalf of his client, Ms. Pineda, who has executed a voluntary relinquishment. Mr. Hill is present on behalf of Mr. Smith. Ms. Zavala is present as the child's attorney and guardian ad litem. CASA is present, and Mr. Trout is here for the department. All right, then I believe everybody had rested and closed as far as this case, but let's just get it on the record. Mr. Trout, anything further on this case?
Nothing further on this case, Your Honor. We would rest and close on this one.
All right. I will take at this time Ms. Zavala's recommendation, and then I want to hear from CASA as well.
Your Honor, at this time, I do believe it's in Emma's best interest, based on the testimony and the relinquishment that was provided, that parental rights for both parents be terminated at this time. She is doing very well in placement, and I recommend that continue.
Okay. And CASA.
Your Honor, CASA is in agreement with, of course, the relinquishment of Anna Pineda's parental rights, and we respectfully recommend Mr. Smith's termination of his parental rights. He didn't participate in the family service plan. He's not contacted CASA back. Also, of course, we recommend placement as is, because Emma is thriving there. She's very attached to her relative. And not only that, but it's also a therapeutic foster home. They get a lot of support from their child placing agency. And with Emma being there, she's still placed with her brother, and she's with a family that, of course, are preserving her Hispanic heritage. PMC to the department is also recommended.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. King. Right, and CASA, do you wish to remain in the case?
Yes, Your Honor.
I do find by clear and convincing evidence it is in the best interest of the child to terminate the parental rights between the child and her mother, Anna Yolanda Pineda, based on mother's voluntary affidavit of relinquishment of parental rights under the K grounds, and the best interest of the child under 161.001(b)(2). I find by clear convincing evidence it is in the best interest of the child, the parental rights between the child and her father, Elvin Smith, based on Texas Family Code 161.001 subsection B1, the N and the O grounds, and the best interest of the child under 161.001 B2. This time I will name the department as permanent managing conservator of Emma. I will dismiss all court-appointed attorneys after the de novo and appellate timeframes expire, with the exception of Ms. Zavala, who will remain as the child's attorney ad litem, and guardian ad litem and CASA will remain in the case at their request and at our great pleasure. And counsel, as always, be mindful your de novo timeframe does begin to run since I've rendered in court today. And also, if instructed to file a notice of appeal, please do not do so until the final order has been signed and adopted by the referring court. All right, that will conclude. Mr. Hill, I think you're free to go at this point in time.
Thank you, ma'am. Y'all have a good one.
All right, appreciate you. Just this past Tuesday, and we are still conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Taylor's making our record. All right. Mr. Trout's present for the department. Mr. Murphy is still present for the mother, Ms. Pineda. She is not present. She's executed a voluntary relinquishment that has already been proved up and admitted into evidence. Mr. Jackson is present representing Mr. Solis, and he is, I believe, on the phone with us. Let me just verify. Mr. Solis, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Zavala is present for as the attorney and guardian ad litem for Neil, and CASA is also present with us today. All right, so my understanding is that Mr. Jackson is still not in receipt of the voluntary relinquishment that Mr. Solis has signed and that was notarized and witnessed. It's somewhere in either in TDC's possession or the United States Postal Service. Mr. Jackson, are you wanting a little more time to try to run that to ground or get another one executed?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to try both. Hopefully we'll receive it, but I'm going to send out another to be executed. And we've been in contact with the library there at his unit to see what, if anything, they can do to assist us to do this electronically.
Okay. Have you gotten any commitment on that yet?
No, ma'am, not to my knowledge. No. They were going to call us.
All right. Do you want me to see if we can get anybody there in the law library on with us right now?
Yeah, we can give it a try, Judge. What my experience has been is that whoever you get, you always they need to speak to their supervisor. That's been my experience, and so
let's give it the old school try while we've got a line tapped in. Okay, Mr. Solis.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, have you got a person there who's kind of in charge of things today?
The supervisor's off till Tuesday, but I can get this other lady in, but I don't know if she's gonna be able to help you.
Okay, I guess let's see. Let me just talk to her for a minute and see if we can't find anything out.
Law library.
Yes, ma'am. This is Judge Baker in Potter County. I've got a question for you all. We're trying to get a document from Mr. Solis. It's supposedly has been mailed, but it's not arrived yet. It's a voluntary relinquishment of parental rights. Is there any way that a document can be emailed to you all, and then once he signs and it's witnessed and notarized, it could be emailed back to his attorney?
I asked my supervisor that this morning.
I'm sorry, you did?
I asked her and she said, we can't do that.
We cannot. Okay. All right, then. That answers that question. So if you'll put Mr. Solis back on, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, Mr. Jackson, since we've recessed and we'll recess again today, we've got up to 90 days, although I really don't want to take that long. So, Ms. Katie, could we have a date that's something 30, 45 days?
Judge, if possible, I would be available on February the 22nd.
That doesn't matter to me. Just whatever anybody else can do.
22nd is better for me as well.
Okay.
I'm with you on both days, so it doesn't matter to me, young.
You're sorry. Okay, then why don't we say February 22nd at 9? And that should give us, I would hope that'll give us enough time.
With that said, Judge, for the record, with my client being present in court this morning, my intent is to send out today a new voluntary relinquishment for him to sign. And it'll go out in the mail today. And I'm going to provide in there a self-addressed stamped envelope for him to return that to my office. And he just, after he gets it signed and witnessed, then he can put it in that envelope and return it to my office. If in the event that the first relinquishment comes in, I'll provide that to Mr. Trout and we can go forward with the prove up at that time.
Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, if you get it before that date,
yes, ma'am.
You know, we might want to see if we can't move this up and just, you know, tack it on somewhere where we can go ahead and get it done. Here today to resume our final in this matter, which was originally called, okay, I guess January 18th. Mr. Trout, is that what you showed?
Yes, ma'am.
January 18th. We took substantial testimony at that hearing and we recessed. There was consideration that we were trying to get a relinquishment from Mr. Solis, who was in custody, had some difficulty with that. So anyway, we're here to resume today, and we are conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming on YouTube, and Ms. Taylor's making her record.
Joel Jackson on behalf of Neil Solis. I'm present. My client should be, you'd signed off on an order, Judge, for him to be here. And I don't know if I don't see him in a room or,
He is not logged in, and there's only Ms. Salinas is the only person in the waiting room. So my understanding is that he's executed a voluntary relinquishment.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so he may have chosen just not to be here today. If he logs in, I'll let him in.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Mr. Murphy, did you announce? Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right then. Mr. Trout, if you want to recall whatever witness you need to.
Yes, ma'am. Michaela Kirksey.
All right, Ms. Kirksey, you were under oath previously, so you consider that you are still under oath.
Ms. Kirksey, would you state your name again, please?
Michaela Kirksey.
And Ms. Kirksey, how are you employed?
I am a permanency specialist supervisor at St. Francis Ministries.
Did the respondent father execute an affidavit of voluntary relinquishment on February 12th of 2024?
Yes, sir, he did.
Have you had the opportunity to review that relinquishment?
Yes, sir, I have.
Did the respondent father, Neil Solis, sign the relinquishment?
Yes, he did.
Were there 2 witnesses to the relinquishment?
Yes, sir.
Was it notarized?
Yes, sir.
Has the department consented to being designated the managing conservator of the child?
Yes, sir.
Was that filed with the court on February 21st of 2024?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd ask that to admit exhibit number 14, which is the file marked copy of the affidavit of voluntary relinquishment that was filed with the court yesterday on February 21st of 2024. Ms. Kirksey, is the department today asking to terminate the parental rights of Neil Solis as upon the affidavit of voluntary relinquishment?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that is in the best interest of the child?
I do.
I'll pass witness, Your Honor.
Okay, department have any further witnesses today?
No, ma'am, we addressed the close.
All right. All right, Ms. Zavala, do you have a recommendation to make?
I do, Your Honor. I do believe it's in the children's best interest for the parental rights of all parents to be terminated at this time pursuant to the evidence presented.
All right, and CASA.
Thank you, Your Honor. CASA agrees with the termination of parental rights of both parents, Ms. Pineda and Mr. Solis Sr. We also recommend, PMC to the department and that Andrew stay in his therapeutic relative foster home.
All right, then at this time, I do find by clear and convincing evidence that it is in the best interest of the child terminate the parental rights between the child and his mother, Anna Yolanda Pineda, based on her voluntary affidavit of relinquishment of parental rights and under the best interest of the child under 161.001(b)(2). I likewise find by clear and convincing evidence it's in the best interest to terminate the parental rights between the child and his father, Neil Andrew Solis Sr. based on his voluntary affidavit of relinquishment of parental rights and also under the best interest under Texas Family Code 161.001B2. At this time, I'll name the Department of Family and Protective Services as permanent managing conservator of the child, and I'll dismiss all court-appointed attorneys after the de novo and appellate timeframes expire, with the exception of Ms. Zavala, who will remain as the child's attorney and guardian ad litem. Ms. King, does CASA wish to remain in the case at this time?
Yes, Your Honor, we do.
Okay, I'm going to leave CASA in then, and counsel, as always, be mindful that your de novo timeframe does begin to run since I've rendered an open court. And also, please do not file any notice of appeal if you're instructed to do so until a final order is signed and adopted by the referring court. All right, I appreciate everybody. Thank you all. Glad we could get this done, and everybody have a good rest of your day. Unless I see you later this morning.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay.